Welcome to Not Your Status Quos, The Boys Season 1 spoiler filled review.
That's right, fellow nerds. And if you like what you see here, please subscribe to our channel. Please like the video and
Hey, share it with your friends. They're going to love it.
The greatest superhero team the world's ever seen.
Let's talk about The Boys with the Not Your Status Quo Boys.
mm-hmm.
So what'd you guys think of it?
Well, this is a show about a man and his dog. I know I say that every time, but we got a brief synopsis. Keith, you want to walk us through that?
Well, I think, a couple high points. If you haven't seen it, go out and see it right now. We're not going to discuss every plot point, but some of the major ones. And I think the first one being kind of the parallel between the Justice League and the Seven, but the 7 being run by a corporation. Elizabeth Shue, who was awesome in this, as Madeline.
Excellent.
She did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And you really see throughout the show how much they manipulate things, and especially Madeline, how she's, wants that contract to have her 7 as part of the military because it's going to be, a huge windfall for the company. Setting up, finding out, bribing the cops so they can go stop crimes, setting up team ups. So they're like doing everything possible to get as much exposure as they can for their heroes.
Everything is manufactured. This company runs every aspect of these heroes, and you've got heroes like Starlight who come in thinking that they want to save the day, they want to do something good, but then you've got Vought who they couldn't care, one way or the other. They're in it to make a profit. They want to make movies that'll make money. They want to write books that'll make more money. They want this government contract that Keith mentioned that is going to really rake in the dough for them. That is all they care about. And so, yeah, like Keith mentioned, they're definitely setting this up to where the heroes can save the day.
And they bring, they treat everything as like it's all about image.
Yeah.
And they have the Ezekiel, the preacher guy, who attracts that crowd. And then, they got the Superman, Homelander, he attracts that crowd. So they got something for each kind of person to get into. So that's,
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. The 7. The heroes that are part of the 7 as we meet them. We've got Homelander, who is basically your all-American Superman, and he even mentions the American flag cape that he wears was purely for an image thing. He brings
idea.
it up. Homelander, he says that was his idea.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then you've got the Deep, who is basically this world's version of Aquaman. So he's your underwater character, and he even pokes fun at some of the jokes surrounding Aquaman. Oh yeah, always send the water guy to the water missions. And then you've got your Wonder Woman like character, Queen Maeve.
Maeve, yes.
Yep. And then we've got Black Noir, who's, I guess, supposed to sort of be like Batman, maybe? I don't know. He just kind of hangs out.
To me, he was like comic relief.
He was definitely comic relief.
He was the only one of the 7 who really did not have a storyline in this first season.
Yeah. And he didn't even... I don't even know if he made any noise at all. He
never said a word.
He was fighting, what they call her, the female out of the boys. Mm-hmm. Even when he was fighting her, I don't think he made a noise.
Yep.
And of course, you've got you mentioned Starlight, who she's Stargirl.
Yeah, exactly, and she's new to the team. She's going to be the newest member of the 7, replacing a former member, the Lamplighter, who is supposed to be like a Green Lantern version in this world, but he is now currently deceased, which we'll get into a little bit later.
And you brought up Starlight and how she joins his team, and like probably anyone else on this world, thinks of the 7 as like these perfect heroes and how Superman really is, and at the same time we kind of get this parallel storyline with Huey after unfortunately his girlfriend gets run over by A-Train.
And I wanted to mention that we didn't mention A-Train, and that's how basically the series starts, and it appears it doesn't appear that is what inspires Huey to do what he does and become one of the boys. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It was a good point. It does bring Huey in to meet Billy Butcher, played by Carl Urban, who was absolutely phenomenal in this. Mm-hmm. But both are kind of learning just how bad these heroes kind of really are. Mm-hmm. It's not, it's very much like, well, the news is showing you all these people they saved and they've done all this stuff. But in reality, it's all manufactured.
Oh, yeah, it's all part of their image. This whole corporation, that's literally all they're doing. is just making sure that all of the bad news stays out of the press and all of the heroes get nothing but good press. They're always on camera. They always have the news talking about them and talking about all their exploits.
And, I think one of the things, we talked about earlier, not only is, the Vought company the ones who are doing, but they also have Vought Studios
Yeah.
where they make their own basically propaganda films.
Yes.
And it was a very, very good scene between Queen Maeve and Starlight early on when Starlight kind of calls her out like, I thought you were a hero or whatever. And you find out later in the film, she's like, that wasn't written by the writers, that was true. And you see like her kind of starting to go down that redemption arc. It didn't complete in season 1, didn't really have anything to do with it, but you see it beginning.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking forward to that storyline.
Yeah.
And it seems like, they're planning out, that would be something you can, you can plant a seed right now and you can take care of it in season 2. So I'm glad they're looking down the road. And for those of you that don't know, this series is based on a comic book series. I did not know that going in. Once I read about it after I started watching it, it's by Garth Ennis, who used to write, not Terminator,
Punisher.
the Punisher Max series, which is, if you've read it, I read it. It's a little more graphic than most of the graphic novels. It's not for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not for kids.
Well, neither is the
and,
boys.
and I think they did such a wonderful job with every character on this show. No one's really good. No one's really bad. They're kind of all very well-rounded people. And I think one of the scenes that really shocked me the most was Homelander in the plane crash.
Oh, yeah.
You really found out the depths of how much
dark.
Image means to them because he couldn't save everybody, so he let everybody die. And then basically gave that teary-eyed speech about how if NORAD would have given him the call earlier, because if he was a part of the military, he could have saved everybody.
Yep.
The thing was, NORAD did. They did actually call the Vought company and let them know that this plane was going down. They gave them several hours warning to do this. And unfortunately, things got out of hand. Queen Maeve wanted to save as many of the people as she could, wanted to even save a kid, and Homelander wanted nothing to do with it because it would tarnish his image if any survivors were still alive.
Yeah, the one if he would have saved just a few, they would have been like, "Oh, he didn't save everybody," and he could not have that out there that
His
he couldn't
ego,
save
his
everybody.
ego couldn't handle it.
I like, as far if we're going into each story arc for each character, I've been telling it to you already. I like Starlight's. She seems to be the most pure character on the show.
Oh, yeah.
When she walks into it, she's actually got these abilities and she actually uses them for good. She gets in there and, like you say, she starts learning. But they get to a point. What was the event called with Ezekiel?
The Believe
Expo.
Believe Expo, where she's supposed to go on stage and make a speech and be all pure and but she's seen too much already. She's had enough. Her very first day there, she has to service the Deep. I guess that's the easiest way I can put it, and gets him reassigned somewhere because she brings it to light. But when she comes out and says all
Brings
this
it to
stuff,
light.
that's funny.
Ah.
I didn't mean it. When she gets on stage and confesses all this stuff, I guess, to me that was like her and Huey's realization moment. Huey's was when he dealt with Translucent.
Yeah. Oh, we totally forgot to bring up Translucent.
Oh, yeah.
It's as
Yeah.
if he was invisible.
Invisible Man.
Has
There you
anyone
go.
seen him?
So, those two, and then they come together, and they're all part of the boys. There's a couple of women in the boys. If you hadn't, you can't figure that out by the commercial.
Yeah. So,
But in another thing about the whole Starlight thing, after she says this, she thinks she's going to be in trouble with the Vought company, but because she's trending so much and getting so many followers, they're all about it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, thank God you did this. And unfortunately, the Deep gets sent to Sandusky.
Where he kills a dolphin.
So, speaking of Sandusky, the Deep kind of gets his just desserts in when he decides that he's going to bring a girl home to his not quite as lavish apartment. That's kind of what he gets with being in Sandusky. But you end up finding out that part of his superpowers is he does have gills, which allows him to breathe underwater. And this girl is very much into shoving her hand into his gills, which he finds very painful. He tries to get her to stop, and she refuses to do so. So, do you guys think he learned anything from that? Did he get what he deserved, or
I think he did kind of get a taste of his own medicine, and at the end when you see him shaving his head and it looks like he's no longer image is everything. He almost is about to become
A boy, one of the boys.
maybe not one of the boys, but a good
Same
guy.
attitude, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't even know if the good boy,
Instilling
the boys are the good guys.
Not
you know?
really.
They're definitely
They're
not.
anti-heroes at best. They're terrorists. I think would be closer.
Yeah,
to,
there's no real good guy on this show, really. Except for Huey's a good guy.
yeah. But
is
even
he even still?
Yeah, not anymore.
he's done some bad things too. I mean, they've
Starlight, she's the good guy.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
I think she's the only one.
She really is. But let's talk about like what got Huey to this point.
Oh, that scene in the beginning of the series. I won't say where, but yeah, when I saw that scene, I knew it was coming because this guy here ruined it for me. But I didn't know when it was coming, and when it happened, I was still shocked. So I don't want to say anything else, but it was a big shocking moment at the beginning. They did it really well, and it just happened right in the middle of a regular conversation where you don't expect anything to happen. They're just sitting there talking, and when it happened, I was blown away. So kudos, nice job on that.
That was excellent, yeah. And for those of you who haven't seen the show yet, but maybe have read the comics, it takes place in a different location in the show than it does in the comic. But the whole thing is almost frame by frame. It's right down to it. It is A Train that does it. It's horrible and shot really well.
And they're like saying, well, he was on his way to be a superhero basically.
Right.
So Huey, you can't
Right.
do anything, but we'll give you some money, but we don't really have to.
Which that brings up a good conversation. So Vought, that kind of leads me to think that they have had their hand in maybe writing some bills, changing the laws, because they do make that very clear what you just said, that they don't have to give Huey anything. They don't have to give him. They're doing that out of the kindness of their heart to make things right. But he was technically on his way to save the day, which was the priority.
Which I think was picking up Chinese food and getting some Compound V.
Which
Yeah.
that's what we found out later. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But let's talk about A Train for a minute, because once again, I think every character outside of Noir, who didn't really have a storyline,
What are you talking
there's
about?
a lot of ups.
Best storyline ever.
But even A Train had a very roller coaster of a ride, because at first you just see him as a guy who basically killed Huey's girlfriend and didn't seem to care very much about it. But you find out he's going through a lot of stress as he's getting older, and he's kind of not as
Slowing down.
fast.
Yeah.
He's worried about not being the fastest man alive, getting kicked out of the 7. He's taking Compound V, which we'll talk about in a minute, which is basically kind of boosting his speed, but it's doing a lot of damage to him also. We see his trainer like basically saying, dude, you got to stop. It's not worth it. And I think we're going to see either season 2 or somewhere down the line how bad of an effect this is having on him. We didn't see it this time because we just see this
Yeah, we
man.
did. He had a heart attack.
He did, true, but he lived. But I think
But that's
going
the
to
effect.
continue.
That's part of the effect. Yeah.
True, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so A Train, he is this Compound V, which again we'll talk about in a minute. He's basically addicted to it at this point, and I believe he was on it when he was running with the bag during that beginning scene that Dave referenced. Which, go watch it. We don't want to spoil it for you. At least not that part. You got to watch it. It'll get you
It's
into
incredible.
it. It is definitely incredible. But yeah, so he's very worried about getting kicked off the 7. He's got to maintain his speed. He's constantly training. His trainer happens to be his brother, which is nice to show that kind of family aspect. So yeah, it kind of goes both ways with these with the boys and the heroes. The 7, they do have some good points, some darker points, and you're led to believe that he's basically his job is in peril with Vought. Like, who knows what'll happen, because there are other speedsters, other people who have developed super speed as their power, and he could be replaced.
And even when he had that race, he was like, if I lose, I'm basically out of the 7.
Yeah.
And that's why he took the Compound V before that. And while we're talking about Compound V, we do find out that this is basically making the heroes. So it's not like mutants or
Yeah, they're not just
weird.
born this way.
This is more like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, exactly.
They're getting them fed through a tube at birth, or is it even before birth? I don't remember.
No, it's birth.
No, it's at birth.
Yeah, and there's a hilarious scene where Carl Urban has to take out some defense.
Oh, that was great.
I won't say what happens, but it's pretty good.
In the hospital.
This is
so-
basically when they find out that they're giving this to the babies.
Right,
And that was
right.
a great scene.
But with the Compound V, and that's what A Train was on when he ran through her, and when they were having a discussion later, and they Huey got to see it on a security camera in the bar, it really kind of disgusted me what he said. He was like, "I ran, I don't even know what I was doing, man. I ran as like a bug on a windshield, man. I swear, I swallowed one of her molars."
Oh.
And I was like, "Dude, that's just horrifying. If there was a person out there that could do that, and they just took it so lightly."
Kind of
Yeah.
makes you wonder, like, what has prevented the Flash in the DC universe from accidentally running so fast that he just ran through somebody?
Well, he phased, so he didn't kill him. He didn't eat
okay.
their molar.
He did.
Okay.
That's the difference. In the DC universe, they're good. In the Flash, he's moving so fast, but everything is slow to him. He can move. It seems like with the A Train, everything's just as fast.
Yeah.
And he has to, make adjustments, and if he doesn't, you're toast.
And then we find out part of Homelander's plan. We find out basically other soups are popping up all over the world, one with this kind of terrorist organization. And we do find out that Homelander actually gave them the Compound V, used A-Train to get it over to him, because it was no longer enough in his eyes to just stop common crimes. They needed a bigger threat to stop, to look bigger, to look better, to look more needed and
To
need to be in the
guarantee
military.
that they would be a part of the military. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Maybe he doubted that Vought could actually make it happen, so he needed to manufacture a reason for them to say, hey, yeah, we need soups in the military to combat their own soups
Yeah,
that have sprung up.
I do think this is going to come back to haunt them in later seasons because no good deed goes unpunished, as they say. And I think this is going to create, now that it's out there, maybe they start synthesizing it and creating a rush of superpowered beings to where it's going to be almost an arms race, almost another kind of nuclear thing.
Yeah, it does make you wonder how many people in this world even know that Compound V is a thing. It seemed like Starlight definitely didn't know about it, but her mother was aware.
Yeah, and that was I was going to mention that earlier with at the event, that her mother. This was all I didn't. You learn that about her mother, that she's been planning this since her birth.
Oh yeah.
And then she's like, just suck it up and go out there and give the speech. And she's like, whoa, wait a minute. So you learn that. I think I've seen that in other movies too. Just suck it up and go do it, and then they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's basically, how she got forced into this position. I don't know. It was a moving scene for me.
No one put Starlight in a corner.
That's right. Nobody put Starlight in the corner.
Then we get to kind of the nitty-gritty of Homelander. He's kind of, while I was watching it, especially after the plane crash scene, I'm like, wow, he's not quite Superman, but he's not quite Brightburn either.
Right.
But he definitely starts trending a lot closer to Brightburn when he's finding out his history, and he goes and he visits the doctor that kind of raised him. And
Yeah,
he tells
raised
the
in the
story.
lab. Go figure. The sociopath.
And he even says that, the mistake we made with you was you had no mother, no parents, and that was, that was on us. Like, we got this Superman now.
Whoops, my bad.
And that was really hinted at. In retrospect, I didn't catch it at first. When he's talking about his kid with Billy Butcher's wife, and he says, "Oh well, he kind of clawed his way out of Becca, killing her, and then he didn't survive or whatever." And Homelander's obviously kind of disappointed at the news because I think he was all of a sudden like, "Oh, I could be a father," and that was something interesting to him. But then he's talking to Madeline with Billy. She tells him a different story. She says, Becca miscarried your kid. He said, you really should have got these stories right.
Mm-hmm.
To which really starts to go off the deep end because he's like, oh, Billy, you were going to, explode her in front of me and think that would have an effect? And basically uses his heat vision and melts her head.
Yeah.
Which, very graphic.
Not over the top though.
No,
But yeah, so you kind of you briefly mentioned Billy's wife. So we talked about kind of what set Huey off on his journey to join the boys. But what set Billy off, what got him
To create
down the
the
path,
boys.
yeah, initially to get him to create the boys, and to get him to go along with this CIA agent who wanted Lamplighter killed, was he wanted retribution. He wanted vengeance for his wife, who we're led to believe was raped by Homelander. Now they didn't
killed.
make that absolutely clear, but they made it out to believe that for a while during the series that she was raped and that she took her own life as a result. And then we end up finding out towards the end that it turns out she's not dead, and that she did have her child. So kind of a bit of a surprise for both Homelander and Butcher.
It was a great twist.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I didn't.
Neither did I.
I think they laid clues.
But you will.
Out. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you will now. But and it shows that Vought is learning from their mistakes because this kid's obviously going to have superpowers. Well, you see it because his eyes glow at the end, so they know we
So
can't
he's
raise him in
been-
a lab.
He's been born with superpowers.
Yeah.
So
he's
does that mean
second
that it is
generation.
now possible to actually breed superheroes?
Yes.
And I wonder if it makes you wonder: is this actually a plan of Vought? Did they do this to keep the kid and the mother away from Homelander? Or did they do it as another experiment?
It probably was an experiment to see how it would turn out, and especially they didn't want to raise him in a lab again
Yeah.
because they didn't want to have the same sociopath they have in Homelander. And who knows how that's going to turn out because he's still a kid with superpowers.
Yeah.
And now that he's
Which
Then
they
his
do.
dad-
They do say, they show you right there at the end. He's got the heat vision, so yeah, he's definitely got powers. I don't know how developed they'll be, or whether he'll have all of Homelander's powers. It might be diluted down. Having a regular human mother. So who knows?
but can he use Compound V to get his power up there?
And if he does, will it
He
screw him
might.
up?
Yeah.
Could this be like a Superboy, a la Young Justice, where
Yeah.
he's able to slap on the
Yeah, the Lex Luthor
Yeah.
patch to give him his full Kryptonian power.
Mhm.
It's going to be interesting to see where they take this because they didn't close every plot hole, or every plot, I should say.
No.
Plot hole is a very bad word. But every plot line was not closed, so they can lead it into season 2 and kind of get more. I mean, you get
Yeah.
Queen Maeve, obviously she's a lesbian, but they've tried to push that down because that might not play well in the homeland or in the
in the whole.
homeland, oh my goodness. But in the like the Mid East or Midwest,
yeah.
all that stuff, and they do just a lot of stuff, and you're gonna see the Deep. Where's he gonna go from this? A-Train had that heart attack. How's he gonna go? Is he gonna get kicked out of the 7, and maybe what avenue that's gonna take him down? Obviously, Homelander with his kid. How's Billy Butcher gonna react to his wife still being alive? It's not like he's going to be a good friend of Homelander these days because he still probably raped his wife, and because of that, he lost her all these years because she's raising his kid.
I don't know how he's going to react from that scene. Let alone how the next season's going to progress. How do you come back from that? You know what I mean?
No, it's an
There
excellent
are
question.
so many things that they've left, that need to be answered. Is Vought going to hold Homelander responsible for the death of their, basically the woman who was running the show for them?
And I don't think they will. I think that they would damage their image too much.
Yeah, if that got out that Homelander killed Madeline, that would look very bad. People would start, the image of their heroes would go down. They would rather cover it up. But a lot to think on. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.
Make it